4 minutes. Is it right, Miss Johanna? Okay, yeah. So we're still waiting for some of our friends who might be finished his or her extra lessons probably, or his or her previous activities. All right, so please wait for another few minutes. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Yeah. Hi, Sherry. Welcome back to English Club. But right now we're having a collaborative event with Biology Club, right? So we're glad, yeah, Miss Johanna, Mr. Alvin, and our guest star. We're glad that you are back right now. So before we start the sessions, can I have all of you to turn on your cams? Okay, yeah. Oh, we see that you look very happy today, don't you, Keisha? Okay, I'm still waiting for the other students.
I think we're all happy, Miss.
Oh, you're all happy. Okay. Can I know what makes you happy today?
What? Can you repeat the question?
Can I know one of the reasons why you're happy today?
Oh, I'm just happy today. You know, like normal, happy every day.
Okay, yeah, that's a good vibe. Yeah, I hope everyone will start this event with a happy heart. Okay, now I haven't seen Giorgio, Gani, Jenna. If you're able to turn on your cams and if you don't have internet connections, please turn on your cams and we're going to take a screenshot, right, about our pictures for today. Yeah. Can't. Okay, so right now, I think I'm going to take a screenshot for the first slide. And let's paste it for a while. Now, are you ready? The second slide. Over here, we have Theo. Theo, are you able to turn on your cams? Luis, Chelsea, Cheryl, yeah? Arya, Audrey. Oh, Theo, yeah. Theo, you also joined this, yeah? So I'm very happy there. Oh, we have Joey. And then, okay. Okay, second slide. 1, 2, 3. All right. Yeah. Okay, everyone. So before we start the lessons or the session, sorry, for today, let's start the event by praying. Okay, let's start the event by praying because we need God in every steps of our life, right? So fold your hands and then close your eyes. We're going to pray. Dear God, thank you for giving us the chance to live today and for gathering us in today's event. Please bless our guest star, Mr. Sam, who's going to deliver the materials, Miss Johanna and Mr. Alvin, and all of us, so everything that we learn today can be a blessing for us and can be useful for our future. Amen. All right. Yeah, so I think Mr. Alvin has shared a virtual background for all of you, right? So you can, if you're able, if you're having a white spot or white background, then you can change your virtual background. So probably at the end of the meeting, we will be able to take another screenshot. Yeah. Okay. Now, before we start today's sessions, I need to share 2 important points. The first one is that, right, we're going to invite a very amazing guest star with a very amazing MC or moderator. Yeah. So the first amazing guest star is Mr. Sam. Hi, Mr. Sam.
Hi, Miss F. How are you?
Okay, I'm great. I'm great. How about you? Are you great? Are you ready?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Now, our second, the most beautiful moderator over here, Miss Johanna. Hi.
Hi, Miss F.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so those are our 2, one speaker and one amazing moderator for today's event. But before that, please try to fill in our attendance form for today. There you go. Yeah, and then another, yeah. Okay, so please try to fill in this attendance form first. And then the second one, I just want to remind you, for those who are the English Club members, don't forget that you're going to have a note-taking project, and the deadline for the note-taking project will be 8 October. Okay. Is there any other announcement from Biology Club, Mr. Alvin? No?
No, Miss.
Okay, thank you, Mr. So there you go. So I will give the sessions. The time is yours, Ms. Johanna.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Zafira. But before we start our session today with Mr. Sam here, I would like to share a video. So we've got a video apparently from the Gloria Pakuan. So I'm going to share it to you. Let me share the video. Wait a minute. Okay, thank you for waiting. Wait a minute, let me just play it for you. Sorry.
This is not an easy year due to pandemic. But we still stand firm and move forward to carry out our mission of service. Give yourself fully to God's word. For we know that within Him nothing is in vain.
Okay. So in case you are interested in that, for example, your brother or sister are interested in staying in Gloria Bilingual School, you can just go to our Instagram account and then you can see the information there, right? Okay, so before we start with our guest today, so we have got a special guest here with me, Mr. Sam. But before we got to know him personally later on, I'm going to ask a several questions to every one of you here, okay? So I'm going to share a link in the chat box down below. So you can check on the link and then try to answer the question. Okay, so the question is not that difficult. So you can just answer the question according to your own opinion. Okay, yeah? Wait a minute. Okay, I have shared the link to the chat box down below. Can you click it? And then can you just fill or just answer the question that is written there? So my question is that what is researcher? Okay, before we know more about Samuel's life, Mr. Samuel's life and such, we need to know first, what is researcher? Who is that? What kind of daily tasks that the researcher doing every day, like that one? Okay. Okay, I've got lots of answer here. A person that research something deeply, a cool person that is searching about cool stuff, people who research, people who just further information about something. Okay, researchers just think, what's that? Okay, a person who studies about a certain thing, searching more detailed information about something. Wow, lots of answer here and keeps on coming. Person whose job is discovering or verifying information, searching or inventing a new thing. Very good. Studies in a certain subject to find out something new or a solution to a problem. Very good one. And then as someone who is searching for information, search. Okay, so mostly your answer is about searching, researcher. It means that he or she searches something, search something. Okay, person that research something very deep. Okay, dig more into a study. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing some of the opinions and answer. Okay, right now we've got Mr. Samuel here, and apparently he is one of the researchers. You said previously that researcher is a cool person. Are you, Mr.?
Well, I don't know. It's not me to say though.
Okay then. Okay, but before that, let me just introduce Mr. Samuel here first. So I have my PowerPoint slide right now. Oh, oopsie. Yeah, I hope that you could see my screen right now. Okay, so this one is is the topic for our webinar today, Life as a Cancer Researcher. So, okay, let's learn more about the speaker, yeah, before we ask some question to him, okay? So Samuel Stefanus Widodo is the guest, is our guest today. Was born in Semarang and raised in Surabaya, and currently living in Melbourne to pursue his PhD degree at University of Melbourne. He completed his bachelor degree at Universitas of Surabaya or University of Surabaya or Ubaya, you may name it, and his master degree at University of Melbourne. His master project focused on immunobiology of glioma and glioblastoma, the most common form of primary brain cancer. And he also has been awarded with some honorable scholarships, for example, Melbourne Research Scholarship or PhD, which is offered to high-achieving domestic and international research students at the University of Melbourne. And he also got Australia Award Scholarship from Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade Australia in 2017. He also attended some international conferences like the 6th Annual EMBL Australia Postgraduate Symposium from Models to System, the 12th Cogno Annual Scientific Meeting, the Neuro-Oncology Picture Now and the Future as a delegate sponsored by Australia Awards and many more. Okay, so I saw that the guest profile here is very brilliant and magnificent, right? Okay, but let's hear more about Mr. Samuel here. So, Mr., can you please introduce yourself a bit so that our friends here in biology and also English Club can know you more, know you better?
Yeah, thank you for the kind introduction, Miss Yona. So my name is Samuel. You can call me Sam or Samuel. And currently, I'm doing PhD at the University of Melbourne on cancer. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to find out what is actually happening in cancer when cancer grows in patients. And that is the most things that I look at in my project. Actually, a little bit of a fun fact about me is when I did my bachelor degree at Ubaya, I was Mr. Alvin's junior at that time, and in my first and second years, I was tutored by Mr. Alvin. So we have the same experience of being taught by Mr. Alvin. I think that's it, Miss Yona.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so actually, yeah, you are the same, yeah, like our friends here in Biology Club, yeah, have been tutored by or taught by Mr. Alvin. Okay, so it is not common, yeah, Sam, to be a researcher, right? I mean, it's not common job that people will pick, yeah, for their future, right? Yeah, for example, like doctor or teacher is the commonly one, or bankers. But what did motivate you to be a researcher? What is your driving force to be a researcher?
Yeah, well, actually, the way I see it, I mean, things are different everywhere, right? So when I was in Indonesia, it may not look as a like a good career choice as a researcher, because I think not because we don't get paid well, but because it's just not very popular, like what you said, Miss Joanna. But in Australia, I see a lot of people wanted to be researchers and pick their career as researchers, as professors, as academicians and stuff. And so, but I think in our generation, there are more researchers than we had before. And about my motivation of being a researcher is, actually, I wanted to be a doctor when I was in junior high and senior high, but I didn't get into public uni. So I applied for public uni, I sat the test and I didn't get in. And then I went to the Faculty of Biotechnology at Ubaya instead. And over there, I was thinking, I was kind of, I found some enlightenment, and that I was thinking that, I can actually help people not as a as a clinician or as a medical doctor, but I can also help people through, my findings when I do research. And that's why ever since then, I pick, researcher as a career path.
Okay, what an interesting story. Yeah. So at first you want to be a doctor, first, but because you didn't get in the public uni, and then you changed the dream, become a researcher instead. Okay. Yeah. So I heard previously when I look at your CV or look at your profile before that, you've got several scholarship, right? If I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Okay. So how did you get it? I mean, you get the scholarship for the PhD, right?
Yeah, I did.
So how did you get the scholarship? Perhaps our friends in biology or English club wants to get the similar scholarship like you did. So how? Is there any tips and tricks, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that you need to do if you want to get scholarship is you need to apply, of course. So you need to be aware of, what scholarships are there in your institutions. For example, maybe in Gloria Junior High, there are some scholarships and that you need to apply with certain requirements. So you need to be aware of the scholarships first, and then need to be aware whether you are eligible to apply or not. And I think there are many scholarships out there with many purposes, with many different purposes. For example, the one that I applied for my master's degree, the Australia Award Scholarship. So the background of the scholarship is it's like a bilateral, relationship between Australia and Indonesia. So Australia provides, those scholarships to help students in Indonesia to sort of advance in their fields. And there are several fields that they only pick, such as health science or economics. And the hope is like Indonesia can be more advanced in those fields after getting these students studied in Australia. So you need to answer the questions of why would I be eligible for that scholarship? What quality in me is that those scholarship providers looking for? So you need to answer that.
Okay, thank you for at least giving us insight about how to apply one of the scholarship. At first, you need to be aware about what kind of scholarship that you are going to get, right? Okay, next, I'm going to talk more about researcher. Right now, one of your job every day is to be a researcher, right? So as a researcher, what do you do every day? And what's the difference between researcher and, as you said before, we have clinicians or public health worker. So what's the difference between researcher and clinician?
So first of all, I'd say that because I'm doing research on cancer, which is, a human disease. So I work along with many different clinicians in my place. So I think I'm gonna share my screen to help me answer that question. All right. So here I'm putting in place things that I do and things that I do not do as a researcher. I put the things that I do in the green box and the things that I do not do in the red box. So I'm telling you this because I usually get a lot of misconceptions when people ask me what do I do, and then I answer, I do cancer research, and then they're coming up with their assumptions about things that I do. Well, actually, I do not do. So first, people usually think that I cure cancer, that I can cure cancer. When I tell them I do cancer research. Well, the fact is, I'm doing research on cancer in the hope that from my findings or from my research results, I can find a cancer cure. But the cancer cure itself is not present at the moment, or the current drugs are not. It's not that effective in curing cancer. So we need more effective drugs that we're trying to answer, or we're trying to find out in the research. Next, misconception about things that I do and do not do. So there's one time that I met a guy and I told him that I do cancer research. And then after quite a while, he got back to me. He asked me about, treatments. So apparently his relative got cancer. And then he asked me whether these treatments that his relatives received is this an okay treatment? Is this going to be effective? Is this going to cure my relative? Well, unfortunately, I told him that I can't answer your question because that's not my capacity. That's the clinician's job, not a researcher job. And so when I tell people that I do cancer research, it means that I don't meet patients, I don't treat patients with cancer, and moreover, I don't hang out with patients. Well, what I do is I use samples. So those are the cancer tissue that were taken from those patients. But usually what I did was I applied to hospitals or cancer research institutes for those samples. So I don't directly meet the patients. So I applied through like a third party. It's like like hospitals. And then I collected the patient's data too. So the data that may be relevant to my research, such as age or their dietary habits or their other habits like smoking or non-smoking, or whether they put on high-fat diet or low-fat diet that may be relevant to the cancer that they had. And lastly, people assumed I spend most of my time in the lab with some lab mice or mixing chemicals and stuff like the crazy researchers on the TV. But no. Well, actually, my activities include doing experiments in lab. So I spend time in my lab, but not most of my time. And well, most of my time, what I do is I analyze my data. So after I did experiments, I got results, and then I analyzed the data. And I also need to communicate my results, right? Like, when you write story or when you do something, you need to communicate to people so people understand what you get or what you do in the lab. So what mostly I do is I go to conferences. And so conferences, they're like platform where, researchers share their results, where, you can ask questions about others people's work. So it's basically a good platform for collaboration in the future. Well, you can meet people with, same interest or same goal, which is to find the cure for cancer. And over there, I also present my data, I write reports and stuff. And I think that's to answer your question, Ms. Yona.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining things, so that, right now we have a clear understanding about what researchers do, not just, as cancer researcher, perhaps you got questioned a lot, you got asked a lot about whether this drug could be used or this another drug, okay, so, right now we could have a clear understanding that the researchers only do like, experimenting, researching, and also searching for data and things. Okay, now right now I'm going, okay guys, I forgot to inform you that if you have any question, you can just drop your question in the link down below. I have shared the link in the chat box. You can just check it. And then if you have any question for Sam, Mr. Sam here, you can just type your question there, okay? So let's continue here. About being a researcher, Sam. So are there any interesting moments or any interesting fact that you could share to us here, so that perhaps our friends here from Bio or English Club could know more about the fun fact, about the interesting fact?
Well, definitely, there are certainly a lot of things that are very exciting of being a researcher. And I actually have prepared some slides to answer that. So first of all, so here, the picture here is the building that I work at in Melbourne. So this building here is, it's called the Victorian Comprehensive Cancer Center. So this is like a mixture of everything, about cancer. It's a hospital. It's the building itself hosted a lot of, international researchers, and a lot of experiments on cancers have been done and completed in this building. And it's really exciting to be there because you can meet, experts every day. Like there's a coffee shop over there where, clinicians and experts and, researchers, even students, they just like chilling, enjoying coffee and stuff. So it's a very good experience for me because people are so humble, like professors and clinicians, they just, just gonna have to enjoy their coffee with the students and stuff. So it's a very good environment, very supportive environment. And this is my view from the building. So my lab is on level 10 of the building, and I got to see the Melbourne City metropolitan view on my lab, and it's very beautiful, I can tell you. And of course, using fancy facilities in this building is very top notch. So I got to use this fancy technology. So it's a microscope basically, but it's different to the regular microscope you see in the lab, because this one can generate like an image over here with so many different colors, and very beautiful image with a lot of colors. And I think in Melbourne, or even at least in Australia, there's only one from maybe 4 facilities that have this technology, and I gotta use that in my research. So I feel very privileged actually. And the other exciting things, here is I think you have seen these photos before when Miss Joanna introduced me. So this is when I went to a conference. Like I said before, I go to conferences as a researcher. So this conference here was in Barcelona, Spain. So over there, I met a lot of researchers from all around the world, from different backgrounds, doing different types of research on different types of cancers. So basically a very diverse environment. And I got to meet these lovely people, which is around my age. So we basically share the same story. So this guy over here is from Portugal. He at that time he was finishing up his master's, and he was going to do a PhD. And this lady here is I think she's from Israel, and she was finishing up her PhD in Germany. And this girl over here is from Hong Kong, and right now she's doing PhD in London. And until now, we're still somehow connected because we're doing basically the same things but with different goals, different place. So we share difficulties and stuff. So for example, when some of my experiments didn't work, so I gotta like ask them based on what your experience, how to solve these problems and stuff. So that's how collaboration builds up among researchers, by going to conferences and meet different researchers, which is very exciting. So that's one international conference. The other conference that I went to was a local one here in Melbourne, Australia. And this lady over here, she's famous though. She's a famous Hollywood actress. Her name is Olivia Newton-John. I'm not sure if you ever heard her, but she was famous, I think, back in late 80s or 90s, even now. She's Australian, and she was a cancer survivor. So she had breast cancer, and she survived. And I think what was amazing about her is after she survived breast cancer, she feels the urge to help other people, and she used her wealth to build a cancer research institute in Melbourne. And so listening to her at that conference, listening from her perspective about the future of cancer research and stuff, it was very amazing, I think. And at that conference, I also met patients and clinicians and other researchers do. So it's a really good environment. And last but not least, the most exciting thing about being a researcher is you got to travel. So this is on the right-hand side here is a picture that I took when I presented my data in Heidelberg, Germany. So who don't love traveling? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Sam. So it seems like there are lots of interesting moments, yeah, as a researcher, not only
definitely.
collecting data, but also traveling, yeah. Okay, so yeah, this one is a bit, I'm going to ask you about this, but I do not know whether it is okay to ask, but it's okay if you do not want to share about this. But how do you earn money as a researcher, Sam? Is it from selling your research, or perhaps are there any sponsorship that you got or things like that?
Yeah, it's totally fine to answer that question. Well, there are a lot of career stages, different career stages, by being a researcher when you are a researcher. For example, for me, I'm still doing my PhD, which is it's like a transition between students and real independent researchers. So I'm still supervised. I mean, I have someone senior that watches over my research and how I progress in my research. So, and I'm still considered as a student too, although I'm not like, sitting in classes or like doing examinations and stuff. So like you said before, I got scholarship, and that's where I got my funding, my daily sort of stipend or like salary in a sense. But after PhD, people usually work at cancer research institutes. So that's where people get their monthly salaries. But for the research itself, because, performing experiments or conducting your own independent research, that is very expensive. So that something that you cannot cover with your salaries. So usually what people do is they apply for grants or apply for some kind of fundings from different organizations, such as, I don't know, maybe the government or some research foundations and stuff that will provide them with fundings for their research. That's because the instruments or like microscopes and stuff, they're very expensive, and you need extra fundings for that.
Okay, thank you for explaining. So yeah, basically right now you just got the scholarship, yeah. So your salary based on that one. Mm-hmm. Okay, you talked about collecting data previously, right? So how do you usually collect your data? Do you use any specific method, for example, that you could share to our friends here in Bio and English Club?
Yeah, like I showed you before, my main method in my experiment is microscope. So I do a lot of microscopy. I think I can show you a picture that I took during my research. So over there here. So these are cells. So this area here is an area that I captured in my microscope. So what you're looking at here now is it's a cancer tissue, basically, with a lot of cells that comprise the tissue. So you see that blue jelly beans over there are individual cells, and the green or red or pink stuff is there are generated from different types of cells. So you're looking at a cancer tissue with different types of cells that are in the tissue. And this one was captured by the microscope that I showed you. And what that microscope does was it took pictures, and then I used the analysis computer, which can sort of calculate how many cells are present in the tissue based on the signal from this picture. For example, the blue jelly beans here are represented by these blue jelly beans, and the green cells are represented over there, and the computer does the calculation automatically. So I got numbers, and then after that I I just analyzing how many the number of certain types of cells, or like how many red cells, how many green cells, how many pink cells. And then I correlate that with the patient data. For example, oh, the green cells are more present in older patients or younger patients. And what does that mean? So that's something that I do usually.
Okay, thank you, Sam. So right now, can you, you said that your recent research is about cancer, right? So can you tell us a bit about that? Like, what is exactly cancer, and then about your research, your findings and such. Perhaps you could share a bit about that to everyone here in the meeting.
Yeah, certainly. I'm gonna need to share my screen again. All right, so cancer, yeah. You know, cancer is actually, when we talk about cancer, we talk about like a cell that turns bad, basically. You know, that our body is comprised of a lot of cells. For example, our skin, you know, there's a layer of cells, and these cells, they divide regularly, right, to support our normal function of the body. And you know, when the cell divide, what you can actually see, like when you got flaky skin, for example, or when a baby grows into a toddler, you know, that it adds, the baby gains more weight, getting more tall, and you see that the cells divide, and that's why we see that there's an increase in their weight and in their height. Well, in a normal cell, you know, when the cell divide, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the biology here. So it's gonna be easy, so don't worry. You know, when a cell divides, there's the brake mechanism and accelerator mechanism. So imagine if you drive a car, there's the brake and there's the accelerator. And to be normally function, there should be a balance between the brake and the accelerator, right? And when a normal cell turns into a cancer cell, or when a normal cell turns bad, there's a loss of the brake function and gain of accelerator functions. So imagine that when you drive a car, the brake is broken and you can just press the accelerator. So yeah, your car would move like uncontrollably. That's what basically happens in cancers. So the cell divides very aggressively, very rapidly, and uncontrollably. Now, the type of cancer that I research on is glioma, which arises in the brain. So glioma arises from glial cells. So what glial cells do in our brain is they support the function of our nerves, so the neurons or our nerve cells. And you know, in most diseases, when a patient gets cancer, in the patient's body, there's a war between, you know, cancer cells and the body's immune cells. So I think we hear a lot of, you know, immunity, like the terms in immunity over the last few months because of COVID. And same in cancer, we need the immune cells to sort of eradicate or kill the cancer cells, because cancer cells, what they do is they grow uncontrollably, and they sort of absorb the nutrition that our body needs, basically. So they rob those nutrition and stuff that our body needs for their growth. So the cancer cells here are the bad guy, and the immune cells here are the soldiers in our body, which are the good guys. Now, the expectation is, like in many diseases or like in COVID, we want the immune cells to kill the cancer cells, right? Because so we need to make our body strong, or make our immunity strong, so that the cancer cell dies. But in reality, what the evil cancer cell does was they can, you know, fight back, and they can kill the immune cells by these types of interactions, so by direct interactions. And even worse, some immune cells can turn bad because of the cancer cell. So think of cancer cells as a manipulative, types of cell. So they can manipulate their surroundings, manipulate the immune cells, and go unrecognizable. So the immune cells won't recognize that there's a threat in our body. So then this is really bad because that means that there's nothing that can stop the cancer cell growth in the patient's body. So I have an image here which I took in my research. So this area here is basically cancers. So the red cells here and there are the cancer cells, the bad guys, and the light green and magenta cells over here are the immune cells, the good guys. But what happens here are because the cancer cells are able to manipulate their surroundings, they can stop the migration of these immune cells. So what these immune cells need to do is they need to travel around this area to kill those cancer cells, right? But what the cancer cells did, they release sort of substances or proteins and stuff that stop these guys from traveling around. So basically, these guys are trapped in this area over here, and they're not able to properly, do their functions in killing cancer cells. So from that little summary that I gave you, there's a lot of questions that we can ask, like what characteristics do the good guys have? Are they really able to kill the cancer cells? What types of cells are they, and how do they perform their tasks in killing cancer cells? And the other question is what kind of bad influence the cancer cells have toward the good guys? We saw one in the slide before that the cancer cells sort of stop the good guys from traveling, but are there more bad influence that these cancer cells? And the main question is this influence reversible? It means if the cancer cells sort of affecting the good guys and the good guys turn bad, can we turn the bad guys into good guys again and make them kill cancer cells? So that types of questions are the ones that I'm trying to answer in my research.
Okay, thank you so much for the explanation about a bit about your research. Yeah, right now we've been into the question and answer part. So if you have any question related with the ones that Mr. Sam here has shared to you, you may just raise your hand here. I have some in Slido, but if you have it, you can just raise your hand and then ask probably perhaps about the life as a researcher, or perhaps if you want to ask about cancer itself, you may raise your hand and then I'm going to pick your name. Is there anyone? Or perhaps we go with the one with Slido first, and then if someone later on wants to say something, you can just raise your hand, okay? So I've got the first question here. Do cancer cells look the same, Mr.?
Look the same? Oh, that's interesting question. So you should imagine cancer cells as abnormal cells. So if normal cells look like rounds and they are performing their function very well, but not really with the cancer cell. So they can take many forms, many shapes. Some of them got very big because they're abnormal. So we can't really expect them to be, the same in all cells.
Okay, so it means that they have different size, yeah, not always the same, right? Because they are the abnormal one. Very good. So I hope Mr. Sam's answer could answer your question. Okay. Next, I've got one more before about perhaps if you have another question, you can just drop the question in the Slido. The link is there in your chat box, or you can just directly raise your hand and then I'm going to pick your name and then you are going to share some of the question with us here, yeah? So one more perhaps here, Mr. from the one in Slido. I've got another question, but this one is more like your life as a researcher. So how do you balance your research life and social life? Nah, this is another interesting story, right? So they only know that you keep on collecting data and such, but how you balance your research life, yeah, your daily life and social life. Nah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very important to maintain work-life balance. Or for you guys, maybe it's study and life balance, because it affects our mental health and how we can perform well in our daily lives. So what I usually do in my relaxed time is I hang out with my fellow researchers, friends. So in the building that I showed you, I met a lot of wonderful friends along the way, and they're around my age, so we do similar stuff, and we like to hang out every weekend and all people have life outside the research, right? So all researchers definitely have life outside the researchers. So we go to movies, we go to we just enjoy the city of Melbourne like on the weekends and do interesting stuff. And I also enjoy reading in my alone time when I'm not with my friends. So do everything that makes you relax, and basically like no work during relaxed times.
So you always have me time, yeah, Mr.
Oh yeah, definitely. Everyone needs their me time.
We call it meal time, right? So yeah, we have to balance our daily life, to our work life or studying life with our social life, so that it couldn't affect our mental health. Okay, is there any question perhaps that you could ask about cancer, or perhaps if you're interested in dealing about cancer and things, what is that and how and such, you may ask Mr. Sam here, or you can just write down in the Slido down below. So actually I have lots, but I'm trying to push you into the raising hand here so that we can have interaction. We could listen to your voice and such. So is there anyone? Could ask some question, perhaps some tingling question, or any kind of question you can ask Mr. Sam here about being a researcher or about his research in cancer and such. Is there? Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Okay, oh, wait a minute. I have lots here. Okay, wait a minute. Suddenly I got a lot in Slido. Wait a minute. Okay, but first I'm going to give the chance for those students, who wants to directly ask the question to Mr. Sam here. Okay. wait a minute. Okay, then I'm going to pick some question from Slido. Wait a minute, let me just pick. I have one question. Mister, have you ever felt you are never going to be a cancer researcher, felt it's too difficult or it's too hard? If you have, what made you want to be a cancer researcher? I mean, the specific cancer researcher, not only the researcher, Mister.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it is, I can say it is difficult. But if you like what you're doing, then it's gonna be enjoyable. In the past, because I did biotechnology during my undergrad, just like Mr. Alvin, and I didn't really think of being a cancer researcher at that time. But what I want to do is I want to do something that has that deals with human diseases, anything. But when I was in undergrad, I think I didn't really study a lot about the human physiology or the human disease stuff, because biotechnology was very broad. So we learn about plant biotech or microbiology and stuff, so not specifically on the human diseases. And when I decided to be a cancer researcher, because I see that there's so many opportunities in doing cancer research, as in we can do a lot in cancer researchers. That's what I see, because the drugs are not very effective and stuff. So I decided to learn about cancer in my master's degree. And I can say that it was very difficult to learn about cancer, like to learn about the disease, or because I do brain cancers, then I need to learn about neuroscience too, so to learn about the central nervous system and so on. And wow, that was very difficult, I could say. And what really motivates me through that time is the main goal that I saw in the process. So what I thought was to be able to learn about to do the research properly, I need to understand this and this and this in the subjects. And that's what motivates me to try harder and harder to understand the biology, the subjects, to remembering the biological terms or whatever that is. And here I am. I mean, I if you ask me about basic biology, I probably forgot most of the things in basic biology, because what I do every day is about cancer. But at this moment I was like, just let the book remembers what the book needs to remember, and I remember things that I need to remember. So that's how it goes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. So yeah, there's always ups and downs, in life, and there's always challenge and
That's
such.
true.
Yeah, it will give us lots of lesson and also experience, right? So I've got another interesting question, but I do not know whether I pronounced this correctly or not. Wait a minute. I lost the question actually. No, wait. Actually, I saw something about telomerase there, but I lost the question. Perhaps he or she erased the question. So, okay, let's just change the question into this. What is the probability that the cancer will be cured, Mr.?
The probability, that's actually a good question. And I'm not sure if I can answer that in a very simple way. The reason for that is because there are lots of different cancers with different severity. So if, for example, if a patient is diagnosed with a low-grade cancer, most of the time they are curable, the low-grade cancers. So they're not as aggressive as the high-grade ones. While the high-grade cancers, they're very aggressive, they grow very rapidly, and most of the time, unfortunately, to say that they are uncurable. And even the one that the type that I researching on right now, the glioblastoma, it's grade 4. So cancers is graded from 1 to 4. 1 is the least aggressive, and 4 is the most aggressive. So glioblastoma is grade 4 brain cancer. So it's very bad. It usually people who get it, they only live for like, I don't know, a year or so after receiving current treatment. So that's why it is important to find a new treatment for the disease to improve patient's life.
Okay, that's pretty much summarize about the question, okay? So I found the question finally. Wait a minute, let me just read it for you, Mr. No, I lost it again. Where is it? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this one, Mr. Virab, already write down the question. Do cancer cells have telomerase? I don't know how to pronounce that one. Telomerase, okay.
Okay, what I remember about telomere, this is what I tell you. If you ask me about basic biology stuff, I probably forgot most of it because my research now is very, very immunology in a sense. So telomerase is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a key enzyme for cell survival, right? Something to do with the telomere. But I think if it's about the DNA stuff, well, the cancer cells are different to normal cells, definitely. They have some mutations, which I'm not sure whether that would affect the telomerase. But I think telomerase may have something to do with cellular senescence as well. So that means that the aging of the cells. So I think they may be different because when we talk about cell aging, usually, you know, normal cells, they will age in a certain period of time and they die. But cancer cells, they live longer than normal cells. They are really difficult to die. So I think they probably have different telomerase. But that was definitely a good question and a tough question is for me, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, it's also hard to pronounce the word. Okay, because it's just like scientific one, right? Okay, I've got another question about, this one is about your life as a researcher. So what was the ups and downs you have experienced as a researcher, and how do you overcome troubled times abroad? We know that you live in Melbourne right now, so how to overcome the trouble abroad here? And
yeah, I think research-wise, for me, I'm gonna talk from different perspectives. Yeah. So first, from the research point of view, well, the tough times is when the experiment doesn't work. I think Mr. Alvin can agree with that. And it's very difficult because you have spent a lot of time, you give your best for the experiment, and at the end, it just doesn't work. So that's not a you know, pleasant feeling. And what motivates me is I always believe that the results from the experiments, when performed you know, properly, like much or less, it will contribute to the science itself or to the biology. So it's going to be useful for the development of the field. So that's how I see my research is. So from there, I keep motivating myself. So I need this result so I can contribute to the world. That, well, although maybe the contribution is not so significant compared to other people, but when you solve a problem or when you find an answer to something, that would definitely make a contribution. That's what I believe. And from non-research point of view, of course, the cultural differences between, you know, in Indo and in Australia they're very different. But yeah, that's why I told you before that we need to spend time with friends, because so I have friends from Indo, I have friends from Australia, and when I miss home, you know, I usually get in touch with my Indonesian friends, and then we go to like Indonesian restaurant and stuff to cure our homesickness. And other than that is the time management. I think we are all facing this problem, even as, you know, students or teachers. Like everyone is you know, should have a very good time management in their life. And most of the time, I'm trying so hard to keep the work-life balance, because, you know, sometimes work can be very demanding, so I need to spend more time at work. But I always remember that I need to reward myself with, you know, some leisure time as well, so I can, you know, maybe do some shopping or go with some friends to cinema and watch movies and stuff.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Yep, yeah, it means that, yeah, there will always be something that bothers you, like challenge and such, but you keep on going because, yeah, at least you can contribute something to the world, right? That's the driving force. Okay, that's good. And this is the most, the top like question. So are cancer cells genetically inherited, Mr.?
Okay, I'm not sure about the genetically inherited means. I think we are talking about mutations here, because, you know, from my slide before, I showed you that cancer cell is like normal cell that turns bad, and what makes them turning bad is mutations in their DNA, in their genetics, basically. So that genetic modification can occur in the patient's body, for example, due to exposure to what we call carcinogenic, so stuff that can induce mutations such as, UV ray, ultraviolet rays, or some chemicals and stuff. But whether that mutation is inherited, I'm trying to remember what types of cancer that may have inherited genetic mutations, but I'll have to say, well, there may be some types of cancer like breast cancer that can be inherited. The mutation can be inherited from the mother to the baby, but I have to check the facts on that. But for most of the cancer types, it's not inherited.
Oh, thank you, Mr. So yeah, most of the cancer cells are not inherited. Yeah, most, but yeah, some they are. Probably right. Okay. So is there any more question, guys? You can just click the question. Sorry, you can just drop the question in the link that we have shared in the chat box. Okay, so let me see. Actually, there are plenty, but let me just find another one here. Okay. Yeah, perhaps before we, right now we are still waiting for some to write down the question in the Slido. Is there anyone could perhaps ask the question directly to Mr. Sam here so that we could have direct interaction right now? You could just ask question, any kind of question related with researcher. I saw there are plenty question about how to be a researcher, what major that you need to choose. You can just ask that kind of question to Mr. Sam here. We could have some, the direct interaction so that we could hear your voice and such. Can you please raise your hand perhaps? Is there anyone? Just think of that we have a biology session right now. Do not think of like we have a webinar right now. Just take it easy, guys. Do not be nervous.
But the questions that were asked were all very good questions and top questions for me. So, yeah, your students are, over the top.
Yeah. So is there anyone could raise hand perhaps, especially the biology one? Perhaps is there anything that you could dig more, any kind of information that you want to know more perhaps about cancer or being a researcher? Or perhaps one from English club, because you are going to create a note-taking one, right? Perhaps is there any information that perhaps you still do not understand and then you need to make sure you can just do things like that. Oh, wow, I've got one. Hi, Kebi.
Hello.
Okay.
If you can give us like an inspirational quote, what would you give us?
What a good question. If you could give us an inspirational quote.
I'm afraid I'm not so inspiring myself now, but I think, this is something that I believe in myself as a cancer researcher, and something that I also motivates me to be a good researcher too. It's something like a bad researcher is not the one that fails the experiments, but a bad researcher is the one that stops asking questions. Yeah, so sometimes I'm like stuck with my results, but that's because I gave up. That's because I stopped asking the questions. Even when we got bad results or when we failed our experiments, we still need to ask the questions why this one fails, what causing these to fail, and then we try something new, even if it doesn't really answer the question, but we got more clues. So keep asking questions, even you're at your age. As students, you should keep asking questions. You have the best teachers in your school, so ask them questions.
Okay, what a good way. So keep on asking questions. So that is the motivational quote that you could get from Mr. Sam right now.
And the thing is, you guys can be researchers too. Like, you don't need to be like a cancer researcher or a biology like biologists to be a researchers, but you yourself at this time can be researchers too. Like there are a lot of problems in our world now, and we need your brains to answer or to find solutions to the problems.
Okay, that's a good one. Thank you so much, Sam. So yeah, I heard that failed researchers, it's not because they fail at their collecting data or things, but if they stop their research, stop asking questions.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a nice one. Deep quote too, Mr. Firo said that. Okay, is there anyone else wants to ask any question? He said that, Mr. said that you cannot just keep on questioning things, right? So keep on asking questions. So is there any more questions? What a good question, Gabby. Thank you so much. So is there anyone else who wants to say or want to ask some question here? Can you just raise your hand and then unmute yourself? Okay, is there? You can just ask anything. Oh, actually, I've got one question from Slido, but I'm going to put it at the last one. So I'm going to wait for you to raise hand and ask question then. Okay. Is there? Okay, if not, then I'm going to ask the question from the Slido. It's going to be our last question today. So I've got a question like this one. What majors should we choose if we want to be a cancer researcher?
Good question. Definitely when, I think I'm not really sure about the majoring system in the current Indonesian education. But what I did was I did science when I was in high school. Well, of course, you need to learn basic biology first before learning about something more advanced. And when you are able to probably go to private or I don't know, government unis, pick the majors that brings you closer to cancer biology. For example, like me, I went to biotech school at Upaya, or you can do basic biology, or I think even you can do med or medicine, but not continuing to be a doctor, but turning into a researcher's career pathway. That's also possible. And or even you can go from bioengineering or chemistry, something that brings you closer to cancer biology, basically. So that's what I can suggest.
Okay, thank you so much. So before we close our event today, can you please give us your last statement or closing remarks or closing statement to everyone, to our friends here in biology and also in English Club?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, don't stop asking questions to solve the problems around you. That's something very important. And the next thing is, you guys are very young at the moment. You're what, 14 years old, 13 to 14, 15 years old. You guys have a lot of time to find out what you are really passionate about in your life, and use that time, use the facilities around you. Our generations, we are blessed with access to unlimited information. So use that to find out about what you're really passionate about. And ask your teachers about maybe if you want to do biology, or if you want to do art, if you want to do, I don't know, everything you want to do, ask them what the best way to go there. And maybe you can also join, well, what you're in the clubs already, so use the platforms to really find out about what you really want to do, because that's going to be very important in the future for your life.
Okay, it's important to find our passion, right? So
Yeah,
that we can be happy, we can know, we can be aware about our capabilities and such, right?
yeah.
So thank you so much for your time today, Mr. Sam.
Such a pleasure.
It is glad to be. It's glad to see you here to have this session with us here, to have the question and answer, and also to explain some things about cancer, and also to share your life as a researcher. Thank you so much for your time, for the chance as well. And don't forget, guys, please fill the evaluation form. So I have shared the evaluation form in your chat box here. So Ms. Evra and I have shared the same link, so you can just click that one. And then please, okay, Mr. Alvin, thank you for the reminder. Please also fill the attendance list if you haven't. I saw that there are some students who joined a bit late compared to the rest, so it's okay, but please don't forget to fill the attendance form, yeah? I'm going to share the attendance form once again here. Okay, so there are two different links that you have to fill. The first one is the evaluation form, and the second one is the attendance form. Okay, so do not get mixed, yeah? Okay. Okay, is there any more question about how to fill the evaluation or the attendance form? Okay, okay, if no, then I'm going to close this event, but let me invite Mr. Alvin to lead the closing prayer and also to lead the greeting later.
Okay, once again, thank you for Mr. Samuel for spending your time with us this afternoon. Let's close our meeting today with pray. So let's pray. God, we thank you for the opportunity in this afternoon. We can meet Mr. Samuel and we can listen and learn a lot about his life as a cancer researcher. We pray for Mr. Samuel and his life so that he can work and he can achieve his dream well in the future. We also pray for him and his family so that they can be healthy and be successful in the future. Right now, we want to continue our activities. We want to continue to other activities. Please stay with us and give us your blessings today. In Jesus' name, we pray. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone, for today. Have a nice day, everyone. You may leave the meeting. Have a pleasant day, and God bless you all. Bye-bye. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mister.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mister.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Shachi. Thank you, Savila. Thank you, James. Thank you, Natasha. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.